Good morning, Westfield. It is 7:03. You're listening to WSKB 89.5 FM radio for the Westfield Masses and WCPC Cable Channel 15. My name is Tina Gorman. I'm your Wake Up Wednesday host. I'm in the studio this morning with the chairman of the board, Pete Coles. And my first candidate up for questioning this morning is at-large City Councilor Brent Bean, current councilor, and welcome.
Good morning. Welcome.
So I know this is a little early. You got you drew the shorts. You drew the short straw.
It felt like a good idea when I checked off the box, but it's definitely about an hour or so.
Don't you love that though? It's like I used to teach at Springfield College, and I remember in the summer I would have all these great plans. I'm going to have the students do this. We're going to be in the field. And then we get halfway through the semester, and it's all this extra work for me. I'm thinking, what the heck was I thinking when it all seems like a good, right, as you said, Brent, when you check the box, it seemed like a good idea.
Okay.
All right, so Ken Stomsky and I are interviewing any of the candidates that wanted to be interviewed. We're asking you all the same questions.
Great.
What I love about this is, as you've been on the council for a long time now, we're going to talk about that and how long you've been on, but Ralph Figge, when I did his interview, he was telling me things I didn't know. I'm like, I always learn things that I don't know. So hopefully our viewers will as well, Brent. And I know they've kind of seen you in action over the years at council meetings and committee meetings and so forth. So I like the first question because it's just, tell us a little bit about yourself. And that's wide open for what you would like to share.
Long story short, been on the council for 22 years.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, I had a gap.
Really?
In 07, I ran for mayor in 07.
I remember.
Mike Belanger ran, and he ended up winning.
I remember.
So I had that time off, but then I ended up going back on. So worked at Westfield State for 20 years, and then about 4 or 5 years ago, Jim Hagan was kind enough to hire me as a commercial lender, business development officer at Westfield Bank. So that's where I'm currently at Tower Square in Springfield.
Okay.
Was at Elm Street for a little bit, kind of bounced around with offices, but on the road a lot of new business, big finance background, which is nice. Learned a lot of interesting things in the last couple of years just on that side of the house, just because, 20 years in one place,
Yes.
I think it was just time for me to kind of move. Yep. Love the college.
Yep.
We'll always go back there. My great uncle's name's on Parenzo Hall. He was a state rep in the 50s, so there's some family connections there.
Nice.
I've chaired pretty much every committee on the city council. I've been council president 5 or 6 times at this given time, and I am the longest serving councilor right now. And I always say this because a lot of residents or voters will say, we need new people.
Mm-hmm.
And at one point, I think maybe 3 or 4 terms ago, it was like me with 16 years and then Dave Flaherty with 4.
Yeah.
So it was I think you need some institutional knowledge, and we do have that with some of the counselors that are there now, which is nice, and I think that helps us. And you don't want to be complacent in your job, so that the new blood does come in and kind of pushes you through. So it's been a great experience, and I don't see myself stopping anytime soon as long as I can get reelected. But I love the place. I think we are a very unique community with all the amenities that we have.
Yeah.
We have our negatives and we have our fights to fight, but overall, it's really a great place to live, work, and play. So.
And personally, Brent, did you grow up in Westfield?
I did, yeah. Mrs. Matthews Kane, born in Noble Hospital as well.
Yeah.
And I know we talked about, they don't do that anymore.
No.
So dating ourselves a little bit. But yeah, I was the last 5th grade out of Prospect Hill School.
Oh my gosh, I don't even know where that was. I've never even heard of that.
Top of the hill on Prospect Hill Street, right by a new corner. Yeah, so that was a 5th. And then went over to the middle school and stuff. But and then went to AIC for my undergrad and did my master's at Westfield State in public administration. So.
Nice.
Yeah, it's great. I have 2 daughters. One's a junior at Bryant. I have a senior who's a Coastal Carolina senior.
Wow.
And my wife's in the school system as a guidance counselor.
Nice.
Yeah.
See, I didn't know. I knew some of that, but not all of that.
Yeah, it's
and I didn't know about the Westfield State, the Parenzo Hall.
Oh,
is that
Parenzo, yeah, it's my grandmother's brother. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. But never met him. Obviously, he died real early. But it's a neat thing to have.
It is.
Yeah, it's neat. Yeah.
It's very cool. All right, Brent, let's dive into some of these. Okay, hit it. You ready? Okay. So roads, schools, public safety, all important.
Yeah.
How can cuts be made now that elementary and secondary school emergency relief, or the ESSER funds, and the American Rescue Plan Act, or the ARPA funds, are no longer available. So
Yeah,
how do we make cuts?
Yeah, when we saw all this money coming in, that was I'm on the finance committee now, and even talking with the mayor and past mayors, because there's always money that's coming into the city that's one-time funds. So I think we've done a pretty good job making sure that those monies are ESSER funds. Obviously, are more with schools, and we have no input, nor do we have any input on the council for ARPA. That's all with the mayor. But he's been good about saying what's happening and how we do things and working collaboratively, which is nice. And he's made a conscious effort to go more infrastructure based, which is smart. Like, you have to keep those kind of monies for one-time spendings because they're not going to be recurring costs. That's always been a problem with us. We want to make sure that if it does go away, we're not laying off people, stopping programs that work, that kind of thing. So when it comes to cuts, our budgets, it's always been a fine line. So, we try to, case in point, we ended up cutting some money from overtime out of the fire department.
Right.
Not happy. They weren't happy about it, which I understand. But for us, it was like, okay, come back, manage it, tell us, try to be more mindful about, the funds in front of you. And they do. It's not that. It's just that we want to make sure when we do have to make some serious decisions, even in like contract years when you get those 3 laid out.
Yeah.
So the cuts, as the council, we've never really have gone that deep in the cuts. The mayor's appropriated the budget. We'll finalize it, and we've asked to move some monies around in the end. I always feel that there's going to be some money at the end of the year because you don't fill positions or you don't do the things you say you do, so it kind of gets swept back in.
That's right.
But as far as the cutting goes, it's always starts with equipment. It probably starts with vehicles. It starts with that overtime piece. And then, if it goes any deeper than that and really, the last thing I want to do is cut people.
Yeah.
We haven't gotten in that situation since, not 22 years that I've been on the council.
Yeah.
So that's been good. But that's kind of where I would start if there's going to be any cuts in our budget. And we've done that. And, we always, through the years with all the different councilors that I served with, everybody had their issue, right? It could be a vehicle, it could be overtime. But those are usually the ones that I would start with first because that's the least impactful.
Sort of the things and not the people, obviously.
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
All right. So now let's go back, prioritize these. And I'm going to say them in whatever order, but roads, school, safety. How do you...
Yeah, obviously all important.
Right.
It's one of those things. I think we've done a great job in the last couple of years, especially with roads. Our infrastructure is doing very well. I'm actually tired of driving around cones and having police officers wave us through. It does. It gets tiresome, and we've done a good job. But there's been money available to do that. Safety, I would put safety first. If you don't have a safe community, everything else fails. It's just what it is. And I don't care how much more money you throw at all these other things, roads, schools. We dropped the ball with the high school. So that would probably be, for me, the focus on getting that new high school building up and going as far as a big infrastructure or a big building to be putting up. So, as far as, making sure that the fire, police, even dispatch, that public safety piece is fully funded, fully staffed, and they have their resources. So I would say that would be my number one. Schools, because of the infrastructure that we need to put in place, and there hasn't been a lot of kids coming through either. So that's actually helped us with the stuff that we've had to deal, and we've got the new elementary school coming up. But that decade of us permitting and going through the process of that whole Ashley Street issue, and then, it pushed us back, and it's unfortunate that it did that.
Yeah.
But it's got to be all hands on deck in the next couple of months, if not weeks, to get those. I know Stefan Zaporowski is moving forward with getting what he needs in place to build the school, but the school, it's lack of a better term, it's just an embarrassment. It really is. We all know it, and no one's not saying it.
Right.
So we really got to make that the priority.
Yeah.
Strong education, strong, safety is what brings the community together.
Okay. So. Very good. All right. Well, you mentioned police somewhere in that answer, Brent, and multiple. So the next question is multiple locations have been suggested for the new police department building. What would your ideal location be, and why?
Yeah.
Where do you think it should go?
I was lucky enough to sit with Jim Adams on that small little committee to kind of vet some of this stuff out, and we've done a couple of RFPs out there to say, hey, we need 3 to 5 acres. are you willing to sell us that?
So an RFP, for those who don't know, is a request for proposal.
Correct. And it's the way the government kind of handles
right,
that
exactly. So you throw that out there, and you say we're requesting that you propose whatever you want to, whatever your solution to the problem is.
So we've had a lot of others that are out there that no one really talks about because they weren't really going to work. And then you got to weigh the finances of that. You got to weigh the infrastructure that's around it, neighborhood impact, all that. So there was South Middle School or the intermediate school. There was the Blessed Sacrament Rectory, that church property that was in the mix at one point. I've always been a rectory fan. I like the location. I think the lot is, big enough for the police station and the dispatch center, I think. Okay. We've looked at other avenues, and I think we're still trying to shake a few out, but.
Is that the plan, Brent? Would the goal be to bring dispatch in?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Ideally, we can't find a piece of property centrally located at 3 to 5 acres. So that piece, which has been sitting there, it's a blighted piece of, it's starting to fall apart. That beautiful building is not as beautiful as everybody says it is anymore, and it's historic in nature, but it needs to come down. We need to clean some of the dirty. There was some dirty soil there, so I think. And I'll quote Dan Knappich, if you have an opportunity to clean a property like that, you should take the opportunity to do so. Yeah. And so that's why I really like that. It would take that off the rolls for the church at Blessed Sacrament, which is nice. Give them some money to pay some of the build out that they did, and you got to come up with a price.
Yes.
And we're governed, we have to have 3 years of assessed value of the building as an average, and then we can go as high as 25%. We can't just randomly give somebody double what it's worth.
Right.
It doesn't work that way, even though some people think so. It just doesn't work that way. So I would go with that church property. I think the access is great. You have a backside to it. Okay. It's right on Union Street, and it's as central as we can.
Yep.
I threw out the idea a long time ago and kind of got laughed out of the room. It was J.J. Newberry's lot where the park was.
Yep.
And, I thought we could take down our old building and have some central. I like the idea of the police station being downtown.
Yeah.
This is not, this isn't downtown, but it's as close as it can
close,
be. So
though, yeah.
Hopefully that works. The mayor is, the group, the mayor, the police department, everybody's doing a great job trying to vet that stuff out. So we'll have a good understanding in the next couple of weeks, I think, where that goes. And,
good.
I think the church is at the top of the list.
Good. Well, I'm glad to hear that we're going somewhere with that, because I felt like, it got pushed to the back burner. I'm like, okay, now I haven't heard anything.
Yeah. It's got to happen. The building is deplorable for the police station.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah.
Long overdue.
All right. Brent, we've been courted by data centers and distribution centers that want to come to the north side of the city where there are existing buildings or open land. They would contribute to the tax base, but it seems difficult to make anyone feel welcome or wanted. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, there's been a common theme when we see some larger development, especially in the north side, just because where the land is, like a data center, which, I think there's a bit of gamemanship and showmanship going on with that particular project, because we weren't, other than our cost of our gas and electric, which was attractive to the data center, we really don't bring much to the table. It's expensive to do business in Massachusetts.
Yeah.
So I think they were, I don't want to say using us, but I'm not convinced it's going to come. I supported it all the way through. I think it's a low impact kind of business. Everybody wants clean business, whatever that means.
Right.
And you know what? And I'll be honest. I think a lot of counselors will sit in this chair and sit in our council chair and say they're business friendly. Look at the votes.
Yeah.
Look at the votes.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing it. So we need to get better at that, because if we're really gonna lower taxes for everybody, we're not gonna cut our way there. You've got to have new growth.
Yep.
And that's been difficult.
Yeah.
Now there are people out there that advocate. The problem we have is we don't have a group advocating the other side. So you really hear the negative all the time, which, listen, it's their right. I'm glad they're there. I have no problem with it. I do say sometimes they got to be in favor of something, because then, you get to the point where your hands are tied. You can't do anything.
Right. Yeah. nope, we don't want this, we don't want this, we don't want it. Well, we want that, but we don't want it here. We don't want it there. We don't. Yeah.
So you've got to compromise. I'm a big half a loaf person. I really compromise on in building consensus on the council is important. A lot of people just want to, not a lot of people, but people want to push their agenda. You've got to give and take. And, so as far as that data center and those kind of developments, they're outstanding. I mean, truck traffic back in that area is probably the negative, and we really need to be mindful of saying that kind of business until they figure out what they're going to do with that interchange, because it's really not a pleasant way to go.
And we're getting there. So here you go. Let's just let you slide into the next topic there, Brent. So the Turnpike interchange is a mess. The backup going westbound, exiting in Westfield can be dangerous.
Yeah.
Blandford residents said no thank you to another exit. We've heard ideas about putting another ramp by Savage. Why is it taking so long to correct this issue?
Yeah, obviously I think most of us are all in favor of some sort of relief over there. If the slip ramp sounds like a great idea, we all drive up and down the Pike. Route 90 is a mess. You get off of any exit. I think they took away the toll booths, which created that delay. Got rid of that delay to get onto the main roads.
Yeah.
I guess I think it would open if they do it for us, then everybody else is going to want it.
Gotcha.
And that's what I think is holding everything up.
That's an interesting perspective. I haven't heard that
because there's not any other place that has that on the Pike, and we clearly meet those standards. Blandford needs to open up their exit, which have been fighting tooth and nail. But I think it just opens up the floodgate, and then they're going to be like, look at West, look how good it works. Let's. Did you ever go to 84? The route. That Sturbridge exit, right?
Oh my gosh.
We're going up and down. To Bryant because my kid's playing soccer right now, and I don't care what time of day.
Yeah.
That area is a delay, and I don't mind slowing down, but dead stops for an hour is tough. So that's why I think it's not happening. The state is always tough to give Western Massachusetts money.
Yeah.
We can sit. The governor can sit there. All those governors that came through, but in the end, the proof is in the pudding, and I don't think we get our fair share that way. So Mike McCabe has done a pretty good job about advocating for us on that side, and he spent a lot of time with them. I think even to a point where he went skydiving with somebody.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
I do remember that. I talked about that.
Absolutely insane. But I like his dedication.
You do what you have to do, Brent.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's kind of where I'm at. I think that's there's always money issues, but I think it would just create this floodgate of other things that are happening.
I just find that to be a really interesting perspective because I
little conspiracy theory, I guess, but not like
But that. It's a good point, though.
Yeah.
Because as you said, if hey, look at that, it's working great, and we want one in
now
here, and here. Yeah, I get it. All right, let's talk about pickleball courts. So additional pickleball courts are being built in Westfield.
Yep.
Although used by many, it is still a small portion of the population who utilize these courts. So are there better ways to spend that money? What do you think?
Oh, there's always better ways to spend the money. We just talked about it, the interchange and the Pike, right? But with that being said, I was big in favor of it. I brought some of that to the council with some of the groups like Nan Stopinski and those guys that were down there now playing. The involvement down there is insane. I haven't played yet. I heard it's a great game. But you've got to create. Like we talk about new business, we've got to create a community out there. You've got to create these events or venues where people can really play. I mean, that's part of the deal, guys. We have to build a community, and that's part of the deal. And it might be pickleball today. It might be tennis tomorrow.
Yeah.
It might be bocce, that we have bocce courts along the river that they don't get used for a lot of different reasons, but. I think that's, as a counselor, as residents, everybody needs to advocate for those kind of reliefs. And now, this time, it's pickleball, and that's great. And I haven't seen a sport take off like this. It's insane.
Nationally, it is. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So I just don't. You definitely want to keep an eye on people with tennis and other. We have to do a heck of a better job of maintaining our facilities out there when it comes to athletic fields and parks. We're down a lot of people in the DPW, so I'm not really pointing a whole heck of a lot of fingers. It's just we have to put some money towards that. We'll be announcing soon a big renovation and upgrade to our athletic facilities.
Okay.
With the help of Whip City Fiber and other
Nice.
counselors and the mayor. We have to. They're running around now doing core samples and everything else.
Yeah.
So there's money being spent there, which I think is good money because, these kind of and it's a small thing, but the pickleball piece or new athletic fields or whatever it might be, I think the athletic piece brings a sense of pride to the community. So people can go and do something. I mean, it might be just going to watch a varsity soccer game at Bullens Field or baseball. We got away from that, and that's been a real stickler for me. It's I'm as much fault as the next person, but we have to get back to building the entire community, not just paving a road.
Okay.
Roads are good.
Yep.
Some roads aren't. We talked about Meadow Street, Mechanic Street, but go slower.
Yep.
It'll get patched, it'll pave, but there's other things out there that we should be doing.
Yeah.
I mean, even events like at the senior center, right? Your world, like we should be putting some money into those events and making things happen. So when people say, "Oh, you can't be spending it because you need to do the sewer line on Western Avenue," they're right, but not right now. We're going to take care of some of the.
You're trying to look at the total
Yes.
community.
And I want people to stay here. Yeah, I want people to move in. I want people to stay here, safety, schools, and things to do.
Yeah.
And that's part of the discussion. So I would take that vote 100 times.
Interesting.
And I will say, a lot of people will sit here and say that they're in favor of that stuff now. They weren't at the time. They weren't at the time, and it was a grind to get that money.
Go back and look at the video. How'd you vote? How'd you vote?
Right. Yeah. So
or what was the discussion?
What was the discussion? And all valid discussions.
Yep.
But again, sometimes you just got to take a hard vote like that. All that wasn't hard, but there was a lot of opposition.
Yep.
A lot of opposition.
Interesting though too, Brent. I think we have had a number of counselors in my years in sitting in the chair that I'm in, who have kind of come around and said, I wasn't really for this back then.
Yeah.
But I've changed my mind.
Sure.
I mean, I've had people even say that, about issues that I've brought up at the senior center. It's like, I didn't get it then.
Yeah.
Now I understand, now I can see your point. And I absolutely respect that because I've done it myself.
Sure.
It's like, I was like really against this or that. But you know what? Yeah, now that I think about it and now that I've had the discussion. So I think it's appropriate for.
Can you imagine actually if you had people sitting in a meeting and they turn to you and say, "Oh, you changed my mind"? When was the last time that happened?
Yeah.
That would be an outstanding system.
It
And
would be.
I try to keep that in the back of my mind.
Yeah.
There's some things that we draw the line that I'm not going the other side.
Yep.
But you got to keep an open mind, even though sometimes people are, shouting from the rooftops at you.
Yeah.
You really got to be willing to say, "Oh, wait a minute, you're right on that. I'm gonna rethink this."
Yeah.
So hopefully that's the message moving forward with the council, and we've got a pretty good council. We've got a pretty good council.
I agree.
We all have our idiosyncrasies, but in the end, I like what we do. I like the temperament.
Yes.
Even though the last couple of meetings have been a little
hot.
Yeah, a little hot. Maybe because it's just that election year time and everybody is a little antsy.
Is that election year time? And you know what? Getting sort of into, you kind of described, each counselor. They kind of, as a department head, you sort of start to know who's focusing on what. What is because here's your next question. So what is your hot button issue?
Well, I touched on it a little bit. It's not like the end all and be all of the city, but again, the sense of pride, maintenance. Okay. Maintenance of facilities, maintenance of grounds. We're working on, with the fire department, the school department, and us now to really delineate who takes care of what. Yeah. That's been, big change of mayors, change of superintendents, change of vision. You got to get back to basics and say, all right, who does Parker Park? Who does the baseball field at Bullens? Who does, a lot of these places are well groomed because the organization takes it on, like Babe Ruth or Starfires or, there's some, Yep. But for me, it's the visual look of the city at this point. Yep. I don't like it. Yep. I want it to look better. Yeah. We're getting there. I think everybody knows that. I tend to want to sprint a little bit with it. But it's really because I want you want people to be proud of it. Yes. And I don't think that's the case yet. Yep. We're getting there. Yep. Because of ARPA and some other monies that we have. Yep. Money's thin. Yeah. You know, you do 2.5% on a budget in new growth, you're talking like $3 million.
Yeah.
After you give raises, where do you got?
There's nothing.
Right? I mean, you know this better than anybody.
I do.
So
I absolutely do.
So when people really, and again, back to new growth, was $900,000 last year.
Yeah.
That's like paving
that's nothing.
half of East Mountain Road.
Yeah.
So we need to start being more business friendly when it comes to
And I think we also know, I mean, certainly Dan Canapa could attest to this, but when you don't maintain, it's far more expensive at the other end when you're now replacing. It's just, but it's easy to ignore that and kick the can down the road.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I make fun of Mike Burns all the time in Ward 4 because it seems like every road in Ward 4 right now is paved. I'm like, he's like, I need this. I go, you're done. We need other places,
Done.
So we have fun. We have fun with it, but it's a good. Again, we have a good group of people. I think you can speak candidly with too. So
perfect.
It's nice. Yeah.
All right. So Brent, most importantly, why did you decide to run for city council? I mean, you've served how many terms?
So it's
like
10,
11, 10.
Because I had the break, so this will be 11, I think.
Yeah.
So technically, this will be 20
And, I'm
years.
sure there are people going, oh, my gosh.
He's back again. Like,
well,
I can't
but
believe,
you know what? Only because it's a challenging job.
It has its moments. I mean, I think when it's busy, it's busy. When it's not, it's not. And the stuff we've dealt with COVID, I was president through the 4 years of COVID. And that was difficult just because you were trying to figure out, making sure residents still had a voice.
Yes.
And that we were still kind of moving the city forward. All the commissions were having trouble,
Yes.
We were having battles with, wearing masks in the chambers and it was, but, we had to cancel a meeting because of it because people wouldn't wear masks. I mean, there was some anger out there.
Oh, yes. A lot of anger.
So, I mean, for me is I don't have thin skin. I like being part of the community I live in, like most people say. I want this place to be something that my daughters might suggest living in. And you try to help with those decisions. I want them close.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the nucleus, the center of why I want to do it. But again, my grandparents grew up here. My mother grew up here. My father, they lived and worked in here, school system, G&E, so it's always, I like the place. I like it.
Yeah.
I don't see myself going anywhere else in the next, even after retirement, I see myself staying around, even though I'd like to go travel a little bit. But that's always been, I like to be involved. I'm not patient. I'm definitely not a patient person. So that I got to scale that back a little bit. But because government runs slow, so I try to, and I want to take some layers away. I think there's a lot of, we want to consolidate a little bit. I like the idea of a head of a DPW. I like consolidating those commissions a little bit. And I know there was some angst about the flood commission and not having the DPW commission can handle all that. They have some monies available to help with that. So no one's ever shirking a responsibility by way, any shape or form. But we've got to be a little bit more nimble. We've got to be a little bit more creative, and we've got to react quick about things. And we're trying to speed that up a little bit and try to make the permitting process for a business. If I've learned anything at Westfield Bank, we make it hard for businesses.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have to wrap it up.
Yeah.
But I really kind of liked that. We need to be nimble. We need to be creative. Those are some really kind of great, sort of words I think that sort of summarize this interview. So.
Yeah. No, I appreciate the time and Pete obviously waking up and you guys getting up a little earlier. It's always the same thing. I don't think he leaves.
We do this.
Yeah.
This is it. I do this every week. Up at 4:15 and on the air at 6:00. City Councilor Brent Bean. Thank you for joining us this morning, running for at-large council.
At-large council, and I really appreciate you guys vote.
There you
on
go.
November 7th.
You are listening to WSKB 89.5 FM, radio for the Westfield Masses, and WCPC Cable Channel 15. We will be back.